Well, this is basically the starting point of the whole project here. We had large areas of commercially planted woodland, lodgepole, pine, spruce, planted in the 60s, which had become a great barrier between the moorland and the lower areas in the estate. It was planted by the government, basically, Forestry Commission, as part of an initiative to increase production of woodland in marginal areas. It was a bit of an experiment and one that ultimately proved to be quite unsuccessful. The quality of the woodland it produced was very poor, very expensive to extract, and not a lot of use to anyone really. It was bought off the estate in the 60s and it was then bought back in the 80s when the Forest Commission decided to rid themselves of any areas of woodland that were uneconomic as far as they could see, and then it was left to the estate to try and find something valuable or some value in it, and this is what they decided to do, to try and remove it where possible, try and put it back to what it was before as best as could be done. Well, one of the main difficulties in removing the wood was to get permission from the Forestry Commission to do it, and the owners were very persistent over a long period of time in negotiations with the Forest Commission to take these woods down, and it was only really not, and one of the main factors that has helped us was the National Park. And in 2000 the National Park was created, and they were very supportive, not only environmentally and for the habitat issues, because they could see that this was not a habitat that was worth protecting, and also from the landscaping points of view, these large blocks of woodland, so they got on board as well, and between that and the persistence of the owners, they agreed to plant a third, or we agreed, or the state agreed to plant a third of the area that we cut down, but to try and recreate a more natural woodland edge, landscaping it as best as possible to mimic what you would have been here before. So we've planted predominantly Scots pine, but with birch trees, willows, rowans, all along the edges of this area, but not in large scale, in small pockets, and that should in a lot of ways create a very useful habitat for a lot of birds, and not from a shooting point of view, but purely for a conservation point of view, where you would have heather coming down into the fields, you'd possibly have juniper banks, you would have a certain kind of habitat that you just find on the edges where you've got slightly more grazing animals. You have sheep and so forth, you have roe deer, things like this. Would have never been a woodland area, unless you're talking about 10,000 years ago. Obviously all this was trees, but in the recent terms this was never really woodland. And what they've tried to do is, as they get rid of the trees, that's all the non-native species, we just clear fell them, and now with the help of Mother Nature we're just going to see what happens. Hopefully we're going to get a bit of heather regeneration in these areas, and it will go back to something where it would have been before. You're never going to be able to turn the clock back. These tree roots are going to be here for 80 years, I would imagine. Yeah. But the ground itself will heal, and we'll have something which is much more natural, and also to some benefit to the estate, as opposed to this which is of no benefit. It's a long-term project, very much 10, 15 years I would imagine, but I would be very confident that this area will produce grouse again.